Welcome to the Visual Div Deep Dive. I'm here with Virat, the creator of xAtom, the JavaScript framework specific for Webflow. How are you doing, Virat?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Aline.
Yeah, no worries. So, Virat, just give us a bit of quick intro to yourself and xAtom and how xAtom came about.
Yep. So I'm basically using Webflow since 2017, and basically I'm diving into no code and code stuff. So like I'm a full stack dev, so I'm basically work with the backend stuff and also the front end. But yeah, my daily job is like connecting, building platforms with Webflow and connecting other backend services like Node.js and stuff with it. So yeah, like the many problems like we are having like building platforms. So like I'm a backend dev, full stack dev, so I basically want to write code which makes me faster to like build stuff rather than like having a no code solution to build backend and also like some stuff. So like uh, in my current org, like we have a system where we needs to review each and every part of code. So basically we use GitHub and all those stuff to basically write all the stuff. Now the main issue with the uh, building platform with Webflow is basically Webflow is a no code stuff, and we can't sorry um, so
It's all
basically
good.
we sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so that's all good. So you've been using Webflow as a front end as in your current job, and you've come across limitations and
Yeah,
difficulties. So that's why
yeah.
you built out this specific Webflow JavaScript framework that is unique to Webflow, which is, in my understanding, the first of its kind because we have a lot of us have used vanilla JavaScript and jQuery to make additional functionality to Webflow, and we all know that there's Wiz, which is a fully no-code JavaScript tool that adds additional functionality.
Exactly.
So you created a JavaScript framework, which is, I believe, on top of vanilla JavaScript. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And
So
it allows us to interact with Webflow and the Webflow elements that we build.
exactly. So like there are bunch of native Webflow elements like sliders and tabs, which are hard to build. Like we can use uh, other libraries or the packages which is available by FinSuite to basically scale all those stuff. But the main issue is like building the whole functional platform and making sure that authorized page are accessible to authorized person. So this is basically giving a framework to end users. Like if you can basically add authentication to route, you can connect other libraries like Supabase or another external Xeno can be also used by with it. uh, but yeah, like I will quickly show you like what are the
Yeah,
components and
let's
how you can yep.
I think you kind of touched on something cool there. So the FinSuite have a really awesome uh, attribute for sliders, for example, and CMS sliders are one of the difficulties that every Webflower has ever come across.
Yeah.
So let's. Do you want to share your screen maybe, and if we
Yes.
can jump into your Webflow project and show us how you maybe the first thing we should do is show us how to create a slider, but maybe we should also learn how to set this project up.
Yep, exactly. So basically, this is the documentation. Like you can go to xatom.js.org and you can basically just getting started. And basically, it requires a bit of technical knowledge about JavaScript and TypeScript. Um, so basically, to get started, like the very first thing is like you should have an Webflow project to get started, and another is like create a project on your. So like here is basically a quick command to create the whole scaffold of your projects. So let me just quickly copy
Okay,
it.
so to set this up, one would they would need to use VS Code to use MPX or Yarn or PMPN. They would have
Yes,
to use like
exactly.
a coding tool. So this is. very much a coding product, a framework that one would need to have, as you said, technical knowledge. So it's, I would say, if you are a Webflower and you have used one of the many tools out there to help you like enhance your project, and you kind of want to understand what's going on under the hood. Like for example, we'll keep going back to FinSuite attributes. They are so cool, really awesome. But sometimes you might get a little bit inquisitive and be like, "What is under the hood? What is making this work?" And this is kind of like the next step, I suppose, learning
Yeah,
JavaScript and understanding how to
exactly.
how
So
to make these things work.
if you think about FinSuite solution, like the team have basically FinSuite team have worked very greatly in providing no code solutions like attribute based solutions to it. But in you will hit a limitation on some time that you want to do something conditional, or you want to access or particular time frame on that code that you want to do certain things. This basically provide you a bare bone of that thing, so like you have full control about what you want to access. Like it provides a basic functionalities, so you can like combine it and you can build your own filtering system and or your own pagination system.
Okay,
So
nice.
yeah,
Okay,
so
so
like
let's show us how you would set this up.
yeah,
So what you're inside here, you've opened up a terminal.
yeah, I open up the terminal. I basically went to the directory where I want to create a folder. So like xAtom is basically divided into two parts. The one is the build tool and the another is the framework, which is the core. Build tool helps you to basically, giving you a developer experience where you just connect your site and like start doing the code. I will quickly show you like how you can, but
Hmm.
basically you copy the command. If if you are using npm, then npx create xatom app and then your site name. So like let's give it dues. So you can think like this is basically creating a starter project for you, a very similar that FinSuite developer starter kit has.
Hmm.
But instead of relying on git or cloning the repo from it, you can basically create with a command line.
Okay,
So
nice.
yeah, so
So it's just it's a little bit easier in that sense. There's
yeah.
one step removed.
And yeah, like it basically create and it basically give you a direction that, hey, it's basically successfully created on this folder. You can run basically cd divs and then like run the start. But before that, like let me just go inside the folder and give you the structures what it is. So the source is where you write your code. It's basically the whole source code lives. The distribution folder is basically one single JavaScript file that you basically push to Git public, or you can also publish to npm package and then like reuse somewhere, or you can also upload this to flow drive or somewhere. In my favorite case, I just copy the whole code and push to the slatter,
Oh,
and it
yep.
yeah, and basically do. The very first thing you required is configuration, the xAtom thing. So like you required your Webflow subdomain and the local development port, right?
Hmm.
So here basically I have an empty project. Let me publish, and you just copy the subdomain. Let me also increase the size so it's visible.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
And then you can basically just run the project like yarn start, and it will automatically open the site on your localhost
Hmm.
and the port that you have configured. So now the good part is I haven't configured anything on Webflow yet. I'm just developing everything on my local, and then once I'm ready, I basically push. So like if you use code sandbox or something, like we have configured that URL, and then like if client is opening and we are working on it, uh, and something is broken, then client or someone on the team will basically ask like, hey, it's not working or something. So this is basically a safe way
Okay,
to
okay, that
develop
that's really
apps.
cool. I didn't realize that. So yeah, if we're working on a if we have a project live and we're working on it, most of the time, if we make a change in the custom JavaScript that we've connected to it, because there isn't um, because everything is the one project, there could be an issue. Someone might see something or it might be pushed and something mightn't be ready. But if we're working locally here with xAtom, nothing's going to be pushed to the live website.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, that's
and
really smart.
and you basically don't need designer access to just getting started, or like asking your teammate, hey, can you please push or add this script to the header or footer so I can basically get started with work. uh,
Okay, so that's even more interesting. So you've just connected this using the Webflow subdomain. We haven't done anything to the Webflow project. We haven't had it a script.
Nothing
Uh,
added to it.
and this has to be clear that this is solely going to operate on localhost. So you wouldn't be able to just like get someone's random Webflow project, but you would, in essence, you'd be able to get a random Webflow project. You would be able to play around with it on localhost, but that would not push to their live website because
Exactly,
there's nothing connected there. It's all
it's an
locally.
isolated environment. And but the good part is like if one of my friend is asking like, hey, I'm dealing with this issue, like I have to write some JavaScript, or that's a solution, you can basically pull that and like you configure the solution, like you take the code and like, hey, just paste it this on your uh, configuration or on your embed block, and it's going to work. So like you can basically pull any site. So like but it requires Webflow subdomain. You should know what's the Webflow subdomain, so
Okay,
like
so
you
it won't
can't.
work on a live domain, a custom
Yeah.
domain. Nice. Okay, great.
Yeah, and so like if I refresh now, like we can see like whatever changes published to this page, it's basically visible over here.
Excellent.
um, I can also like basically create a new, which let's call it test, and let me also add a hero section to it, and let's publish. And now I can basically just go to test route and see the new page over here.
Okay, great.
So um, it's going to like, even though if you have form, it's going to submit to the Webflow. So like everything you expect on your Webflow subdomain staging site, it's going to work on your localhost too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like now we have done the installation part, we also done the configuration. One thing that basically needs to be take care, like in some point in the future you might push this distribution file to your Webflow site, and then like your local host code and the production code are going to be conflict.
Okay.
Correct. So just need to make sure that your script has xA dash script, or you can also use your own like format, like let's say divs, and just make sure like whatever script is using, we just add this attribute to it, and xAtom framework is going to take care on localhost that it's going to remove the ignore that script and use your localhost one.
Okay. Cool. Well, let's um let's return back to that problem. And I suppose the first thing, let's try and create a slider
Yes.
or maybe not create a slider. Can we convert a custom slider, a native slider in Webflow to a CMS slider?
Yes. So uh, I will, before that I will go to the couple of basic ones.
Okay.
Everything on the xAtom is basically inherit from WF components. It's basically You can think every element as a components, and like you can reuse some stuff. And the another good part is like, there are a bunch of utility functions, like it makes sure like Webflow is ready over here, so you use this function. The app.ts is the first file that it's going to be executed, and it has an hello world route. What it under it, it's basically using a route. And so basically I'm telling, hey, if there is an home page, execute this function. If I have a test route over edit over here,
Hmm.
and I'm telling this, hey, console log, this is a test route. And so we can see over here, this is a test route. And if I go to the home page, the test route console is, this is hello world from the home page.
Okay,
Because
great. Can you just zoom into, just go back to those pages and
console,
just zoom into that so that we can see that a little bit clearer. Okay, so what you had written there inside in your custom code is that you created two routes or routes. They'd say routes in Ireland, routes in the States. So the first one is just your homepage, which is forward slash nothing. And the second one is your test page, which was forward slash test. And we can see now that the custom code is creating, it's console logging hello world, and this is a test and the other one. So that's pretty cool.
so
So we
let
can
me
see
also
that the
like
code is
split
working.
it out, so like we can also see much clearer way.
Oh, look at this.
Yeah. So here basically, like, let's say this is on the hello world, the whole thing is coming from. But the best part is like, if you make any changes, save it, and it's going to refresh your page.
Oh,
And
nice.
you can basically, without like refreshing your local host to keep trying everything, it's basically whatever you change, it's going to apply it over there. So, and if I go to test route, nothing regarding the home page is going to be executed. So like, this basically, you isolate code based on routes,
Hmm.
and you can do bunch of stuffs. You can also have params for the CMS. So like, we know like, we can't on the CMS page, we can't have defined routes for each one.
Hmm.
So you can basically define that everything on the home page. So there you go. So like, now on the test page, the home script is also getting executed. We can also like
So what
give
what what did you just do there?
uh, this is basically a declarative way saying that everything follows this pattern, like the
Okay, okay,
xAtom
okay, I
should
understand.
execute this one. So
Okay,
like,
so
let's imagine you have CMS pages slash blocks and then the slugs. You can basically get those stuff. But
yeah,
yeah, like,
okay, so
let's,
so you've kind of bypassed the folder element of the blog, but because the root of both the homepage and test is forward slash
it's going to
nothing,
be yeah,
then this code is executed on every child of the
off
forward slash.
that one. So
So
like,
so if you wanted to create a function that was particularly targeting blog, you would be able to amend the root here in a way that it was forward slash blog, and then the script there that indicates that it's everything under that, and then it would be forward slash blog, my first blog post, and all of those pages would have the exact same code um,
yes, exactly.
executing on them. That's great.
Exactly. I will show you more advanced use case, but let's quickly just go to the home page one. Let me also save this one and also remove everything from here. Now let's pick this H1 with, we don't have anything added or any ID to add it to it, but just like the query elements, you can do it very similar. Like, you just have to import new WF component, and pass your query over here. So like it can be an h1. Let me also make it bottom. So now let's not console log, let's change the content dynamically over here. So like we can do set text, and then like we can change over here, and it's basically going to update the text of it.
That's
So
great. So just so that people understand, if you could just move the cursor down so that it's off the hello world. So what this script, this tiny little function is saying is that find the H1 element. So inside in Webflow, you have created, you've added a H1 element. So it's looking for that H1 element, and then it is dynamically changing that the text inside of that element to hello world. So that means, so in this instance, you're just targeting the semantic HTML, H1. So if we
yes,
went into Webflow and changed the semantic HTML to a H2, this wouldn't work.
exactly.
So you said you're able to target an attribute, or can you target other um, CSS? What's the word I'm looking? Can you target
Query.
in queries? That's it. The queries in other ways. Can we target a class? Can we target an ID? Can we target? So can uh, all of that is possible in this
So
instance?
any valid CSS selectors are basically can be target over here. So like you can use div, and all the inside the div just target the p tag. All the valid CSS queries that you use on your CSS selectors,
Hmm.
it's going to be applicable over here. And also like attributes are going to. So like for quick demo, like let's add an attribute to this one.
So what did you type in there? It's a little bit small.
So you can type any valid. Say I just typed XA. Wait,
Yeah, don't worry about zooming in there. The Webflow won't let you.
yeah, but it's basically I'm giving an attribute to just identify on our side. So like if they are changing class or IDs, the designers are changing. Like it's
So you've
before
just created your own key and you've added a value to that key. So it's completely up to you how you write these keys and values, but one would advise to have some kind of format, and you had their XA dash type
type.
indicating that it's xAtom and we're targeting a type. And then you
Yes,
gave it the value of hero.
correct. And then bunch of other things that we can also do is uh, this is the only attribute which matters, that the key should be this one. Otherwise like you can use you can use your own query key, but this is the only one that if you want to create variables inside xatom, you have to use xls var. And let's say we give heading to this one. Let's quickly xa var description, and I will also go to the button, and I will add like xa var button. Now what this going to be will allow me to do is I can get the hero, and I can individually target this one. I can fetch those ones. So like I will quickly show you over here, and now I will basically target xtype hero. uh, let's remove, so it won't replace whole content with the text. Now what I can do is like hero update text via attribute variable, and then I can just give heading. I can give description, authentication, and the button which we have added to the hello world again. As I soon as saved, and like we can see, like we just target the hero, and under that all the variables are declared are basically updated over there.
Okay, so let's go back into Webflow just so that we can see the structure of that. So the reason why um, the whole component, the hero component, disappeared initially is because we you gave the initial X type hero attribute to the actual section, to the whole thing, and that's why it immediately replaced the
The
whole
hello world
element
with the
with
yeah,
the word hello world. But then when you slightly adjusted the scripts there to target the attributes that are inside of that particular section or element, and then because we're now going into variables, you used xa-vr and gave those particular attributes a unique value, and that's how we're able to add hello world divs and hello world again to the different items. So that's super cool because that's the very foundations of setting up, of connecting an external database. So what we would do then in that instance is connect to an external database, pull JSON over, and render the JSON on the front end, and it would replace the
exactly.
elements with the data that we have.
Exactly. So like the traditional way is like you target your uh, card or the hero element, then you target each item that you want to update. And
Mhm.
in most of the case, we just want to update text or something like that. And basically, we declare all those scripts, and if anything changes, like we also update on the code. This is basically a simpler way to have very similar approach, but in few lines of code.
Yeah, it's amazing. So that XA-VR has basically saved us either completely repeating the exact same script over and over again or restructuring it in a way that we would have to actually create those variables ourselves in the code and say that if you find this, do this, etc. And yeah, it could get very long if you repeat it, then you would have to
Yeah,
clean up the code yourself. Wow, that's super quick. So in the space of less than 10 lines, what are we seeing? 7 lines of code. We
yeah,
have created a fully dynamic hero section. We haven't done the image, so we would have to go to 8 lines of
yeah.
code to create an image there. But that's pretty
Y-
amazing.
yeah,
So, but even like
you can like
minded racing here, like you could have very simple setup where you could have content saved in a base row or an Airtable database, and you could even have like a color attribute. So if we were thinking of different blogs, you could have a background color connected to the XA var background color, and that could be completely dynamically changed, right?
not the CSS one, but if you want to like access those stuff, you basically target those things. So like these are basically based on any variable present. So like you can have multiple heading, multiple description or button.
Hmm.
So these are like text variables.
Yeah.
uh, However, if you want to update styles or something, you can basically have to target them individually, but those are like, well, so here in our case, like we want to update the image, and this is basically a one use case that we can actually write the code. But the way to access is basically very simple. Like I have added exit type image to it, and I can basically target img equals, let me also go to the bigger screen so like we can see. And then like you just had like, that it's child of an hero, so you
Hmm.
can like get child component, and then like you can say like return me find the img one. Let me make sure it's published. I also find like test, please. Now here basically we can set the attribute which is src, and we can also add set to it, and as soon as we save it, it basically updated those things. But the another great approach is like you can use, so on the documentation, if we see, we also have a dedicated component for image,
Hmm.
and the benefit of that thing is we get lots of functionality. Like you should able to know like when the image is loaded, you can set the image, you can also like uh, set all the set ones based on the responsive size. So if we write this we can
Mm.
write the attribute and we can do the same, but these are like dedicated functionality added to it. uh,
Okay, yeah, because that's actually one of the kind of like an unknown but unappreciated feature of Webflow is how the images themselves are they don't just respond according to the screen size, but the size of the image also responds according to the screen size. So you have taken that into consideration and you have replicated that in xAtom so that Webflow users are not losing the that
the
kind of
standard
power
practice.
and that feature. That's amazing.
Yeah. So this is basically a separate package that you have to add if you want to use and customize images.
Hmm.
Uh, but I just installed that one, and now basically what I can do is, now just like WF component, you can initialize new WF image, and then like you can target them separately. But the in our case, like we want to only target which present on hero section. So like what you can do is you can still use the image, but instead of passing the query, you can pass the what hero is returning to us. So now this is actually considered as an image, and now if I just remove everything and see the, now I can see set image. Set image takes configuration. So like if we see there are source, it will also give the loading status, sizes, and the source set.
Okay.
So basically instead of writing attributes is the nicer way and in a formatted way to do it right way. So like this is the basically idea behind the primary idea behind the xatom. Like if you are coding, do it in right way and follow the standard rules or the practice that industry needs.
Hmm.
uh, yeah, so let's like yeah, go ahead, sorry.
No, that's really really cool. It's really cool. It's
Yeah,
a great feature.
so let's do something with native elements. So like over here, like we have dynamic list, which is if you want to create a list which is not a cms, you can do it. But primarily I want to show you slider, which takes the Webflow's native slider, and you can basically do whatever you want with the native one. You can add slide, remove slides, uh, do something. So it's another, again, it's a separate package. You just have to install into your project. So the idea behind like creating separate packages for everything is like to make you aware that you are installing, and this is basically going to be part of your code. So if you are concerned about sizes, or you want to know like okay this should be run on this separate page, then like you are aware of it. So by default, like if you compile, the file size of the distribution file is smaller, but like as soon as you like installing another third party libraries, it's going to keep expanding. But yes, let's quickly add the slider. And let me remove the this one. Let's add also.
Okay, so just so people understand what's going on there, when you added in the section, the Webflow slider itself has got a set height. I think it's 400 pixels, but you don't actually see that in the Webflow
Yeah,
element yourself. You actually have to inspect the element when it is published, and you'll see that there is um, a Webflow secret hidden class called W slider, and that will have a
yeah,
height
exactly.
of there you go. There's the height. Yeah.
Yeah, like this is
So,
the
but
again.
you've only added that because now there's a custom. You've added a custom CSS, but yeah, it's one of the things that it happens quite a lot to people is that they don't actually know about that hidden CSS, and their stuff just gets like completely cut off.
Yeah, so let's like give it slide one. Also, let's go to the another slide. Slide hash two, and let's also give an attribute to this one.
I like this. I like working with attributes. Webflowers like attributes. And actually, one of the nice thing about attributes, I know a lot of JavaScript targets classes and IDs. At least with an attribute, your browser isn't going to shout at you if you have the same attribute repeated over and over again, like it would if you were using an ID. For example,
Yeah,
if you put in ID slide and you had 10 slides on your page, your browser is just going to be shouting at you that there's more than one ID. So it's one of the reasons that I really like attributes. Also, if you're targeting a class, you can have the same class multiple times throughout the page, but you run the risk of if someone goes in and edits that class, or if you change naming convention. So you can see here at the moment you're using just the bog standard Webflow naming convention, but if you change to client first or masked,
yeah,
then
it's going to change. Yeah,
it'll break your website. Yeah. So
exactly.
by using attributes, you there's a lot of protections there to prevent you getting having some unforeseen or problems in the future.
Yeah, so like many time like we either move components or like we don't want that style or like we want to wrap something. So classes and IDs are can be unreliable, and especially like if you're using forms and if you're targeting inputs with
Mhm.
ID, and like if you copy paste somewhere your IDs is going to be changed.
Yeah,
So
yeah. The Webflow form, it creates some magic, and the forms just do ID themselves constantly.
exactly.
Yeah. So,
But yeah, let me just quickly remove all the code for.
so we're get back to what we're here. So we're creating a slider under the path test, I believe, isn't it?
Yeah, so like we have one
No,
slider
back in
and I
homepage. He just haven't
also.
published it.
Oh, it's published. Uh, yeah, so
Okay,
like what
explain
I
that.
have added is like added a slider. I have added an attribute, so like I can query it, and I also have one block. The whole aim is like I want to move this block and add it to the slider,
Okay.
something like that. I want to do. Also, like let's add a variable to it, so like we can change it. You can also like copy the first one, or like you can just imagine like you created all the one component having a one slide, and then like you are fetching things from API, and then like you want to dynamically create a slide that you can also do. But in this one, like I will show you like how you can take this one and put it in the slider, and like make an as much copy we want for this one. um, so it's published.
Okay. So this is the exact same technique, or it's a very similar technique to how the fin suite attribute works. You have your slider with a load of attributes, and that's your target, and that's where you want to put your content into. And then you
Yeah,
have your dynamic content hidden, not hidden. You have it underneath the
Yeah,
slider,
and then
and then
you,
it pulls from there and puts it into your slider. So are we trying to recreate that kind of setup?
yes, that one. So like over here, like I don't have a CMS one, but I have just one item that I want to replicate as many time.
Hmm.
So let's target that one first, and for slider, and we save it, and like we don't have any errors. So that means everything is basically found as per
Yeah.
here.
So like, if you want to just show, maybe just change slider to slides, for example.
Yeah, let's
Um,
like slider one,
if you put
and
slider one, we're going to get some errors in the console because slider one doesn't exist on the page. Okay.
it's going to give you the exit route of things like, okay, it's on the hello world, and this is the item that's unable to find.
Okay. So that script that you've just written there is basically saying find item and find slider, and we.
Exactly. So now what I can do is I have a bunch of things like add slides. I can get active, which one is the active slide, what's the current active index, get all slides. I also have like bunch of configs. So like the interesting one is the config that you get chance. So if I just console log the config, we can see this is basically a Webflow config that if you know how slider works, like Webflow has a mask
Mhm.
and it gives the width and like all the pages you get like what's the index. So these are the configs, and like you can actually change all the config that you want. So like if I go slider set, sorry, get config, and then you can basically change the animation from slide to some. So let's see how which are available to us. So we have slides cross-fed
Yeah, yeah.
and multiple ones. So like let's try. Let's say you have a slider component and then you are reusing many places, and like for each pages you want different kind of animation based on your
Yeah.
CMS or something like that. So if I just save this and check what's the, so we can see like it's a cross over here.
Hmm.
So now what I can do is I can get the config and change the animation to slide. So it's sliding. If
Mm.
I'm connecting this one and let's have the default one, it's going to crossfit.
Wow. That's so
So
cool. So you have just what we're doing here is you're piggybacking on the built-in functionality and power that is in the Webflow slider. And instead of like rewriting a whole load of JavaScript to make the slider do what you want, you're just going, hey, this functionality is already built in there, so let's make it slide and or fade in by just um, looking at its config and basically what has
yeah, so like
swapping it out.
you have total control over whatever configuration that Webflow is providing you over here. But
Mhm.
instead of publishing or creating different component, you can like create one component and then like you can do whatever. Like you want to change duration, you can do it. You want to change the easing, you can do it. So it depends on like how you want to alter the configuration and basically customize based on your needs.
Hmm. Yeah, this is
Uh,
awesome because this is just like um, a CSS nerd and a JavaScript nerd, like there's two way they can both do end up in the exact same place, but they just go about it differently. So it's just a really nice feature to see that it's possible to do this.
Yeah.
Um, it's
So
like, yeah, it's so that's a really nice feature.
yeah, so this is basically another idea of thing, like you are getting a very granular control on things that like there are no code solution available to it, but like you would want to do certain things which are not available in right now, you can do it with this stuff.
Hmm.
What I have done is like I have added a button. So let's say like you have an outside button to do some stuff. Let's edit component me. The another is good part of xAtom is it supports TypeScript. So like you can define type. It's an HTML anchor type, and it will give you properties based on that stuff. But it's not very much required over here. But let me now. I want what I want to do is like when I click on this button. So click. I want to run a function, and what I want to do is like I want to get the slider, and let's go next.
Hmm.
And what this going to do is like when I click on this, it's going to do all the stuff. So like
So this is very similar to the FinSuite mirror attribute, I believe, is what they have, where a button can essentially mirror the action of another button. But instead of mirroring here, you're not mirroring, you're actually just saying go to the next slider.
yeah, and
So,
it will just go
so
to
that's
next.
the difference. It's not when I click this button, click that button at the exact same time. You're actually targeting this Webflow slider and make. And is this again like targeting the inbuilt functionality of the Webflow slider and making it
Yes,
move?
yes. So it's not clicking this button. So like if you
Yeah.
don't have this button arrows, you can still do it. So like the another one is like I can listen to it if something is changed. So
Hmm.
let's say this giving this also give me a previous index, and I'm just console login the active, and let's just make it just active. And when someone just slides here, we can basically see on the it's consoling one, it's right now on one, slide one is zero. So
Mm.
basically it's an array, so it's going to console log it's a zero. So like you can basically listen right now on which slide you are. So like let's say you are creating multi-step form,
Yeah.
uh, you
With a
can
slider.
exactly,
Yeah.
you can also like if someone clicking on some step, and then like you want to like if this is clicking on the first step, I want to go them to, so instead of go next, you can just go to index, and you give every time go to zero. So like if I,
Okay. So we could have a multi-step. So you could have a form inside your slider, and you could have like I don't know,
yeah,
like
like
are you a runner or are you a walker? Are you a cyclist?
yeah,
And if they click are you a cyclist, you could go to slide one. If they click are you a runner, you go to slide two. If you are what did I say, cyclist runner, if you're a walker, go to slide three. And in those slides then you have more options and you can
do
multiply
stuff.
that, do it again and
Yeah.
again and
So
again.
ideally, like you will have a form, and then the slider inside it, and then like steps for each things, and then like
Okay,
you
so
can
you
control.
okay, so I did it the other way around. I was saying to build a form, build a slider and put forms into it, but you're saying to have a form and then the slider goes to the different questions and
Yeah,
then at the end that would submit.
yeah.
Oh,
So
amazing. Yeah.
let's say you want to create a whole dynamic form, you can actually create this one. So like you can listen. But the thing is, uh, so in some way you don't want allow users to navigate, use these buttons or these things. Like we know, like if you do swipes on mobile, it's going to slide.
Hmm.
The good part, let me enable next again, and like what you can do is like I can just go slider and let me also quickly. So I have a navigation state which you can set that you should allow users to do some navigation or not. So I can basically say, hey, I don't like users to do a navigation on this slider. I will just add false to this one. And what this does is like you can see the bottom pagination and the arrows are removed.
Okay, so are they just hidden or are they actually removed from the browser after load?
They are just hidden, but it's not
Okay.
doing anything.
Yeah.
If users like enables with the code or something like that, it's not going to perform. So now only you are in charge with the programmatic control to like go next. So like this button has an access to go next thing. I
Hmm.
can go next, but I can't go next anywhere from the slide.
Yeah.
So
And has that also turned off the thumb
the
slide
swipe
functionality?
on the
Okay.
mobile. So
Yeah.
now you can have a truly secure slides somewhere, like you're creating multi-step solution or
Mhm.
something like that. Yeah, you can do it. So
And then essentially, so you've just got a button on there that says button text, and you would just rinse and repeat that. And is there a go back function? So you've got go
yes,
next and go back.
so we have go
Go
previous, go to
previous.
specific index,
Yeah.
or
Yeah. Lovely.
you can also get slides, but let's do add slide to it.
Yeah, because we kind of went on a tangent there. We we started off like pulling data, pulling
Yeah,
content into the slide, and now we've created a multi-step form.
yeah.
That's great.
So let's now we want to create a slides. You want template. So like what you can do is you can get the slider, get uh, get slide by index, and you want to like replicate the first slide to the another one. So like you can clone this stuff. So what I am now doing over here is like, as we can see, there are two steps on the two slides. As soon as I click on this button, it adds the one and it replicates the first slide. So it clones the first slide. What this code is doing, like we get the first slide, we clone it and pass to the add slide,
Okay.
and it basically added to it. So like you can use, like you have your slider and you want to use this as a template to create more slides and dynamically change content on it,
Mhm.
uh, then you can do it. What I want to do is, instead of that, I want to clone this item which is on the bottom. So what I can do is like clone item, and then I can just do item that get clone as component, and then I can just pass this as a clone item. Sorry. So each time when I click this button, it's going to clone this one, it's
Mhm.
going to add this one. So now I go to third one, we can see
Mm.
now it's added over there. The Now what you can do is on the clone item is I have added a variable to it. So like I can update text, and let's do slider get all. So I'm just dynamically generating a name based on what's the items available on the slider. So let's say,
Okay, so just say that again. So you are dynamically creating a name based on the items on the slider.
yeah.
Okay.
So I'm getting all the slides and like finding what's the length of it. So like
Hmm.
when I click on it, it's going to clone it. It's going to update the text, and it's going to add as a slide. So now I go to the Third one, it's basically saying like length is 2 because there was a 2 one.
Hmm.
You can like easily like add plus 1 because this one is going to be third. So now if I click again,
Okay.
it's going to the fourth one.
Okay, so we're getting into some pretty interesting stuff here as well. So what we're doing essentially is we're cloning the element underneath the slider. We're putting it into the slider on click, and then on click dynamic content is going into it. So straight away, I'm seeing increased performance of your web page because you could have a slider there that could be, you could have something that is 10 or 12 items deep, and that could be a lot of content and a lot of data, and that could just slow down your load time. But you could even have this set up in a way that instead of it being on click, it's on slide change potentially that it pulls data.
Yeah, like or basically your whole xAtom code is going to execute when the page is ready, when
Hmm.
everything is loaded, and then pages that you can this whole code is running on that. So like let's say this is your API data, and you're fetching from API or like Ajax call something. Let me have a couple of like hello world. So I have three item added to it, and what I can do is like eventually I don't want this item. So what I can do is I can move the entire code over here. So it's going to clone it. Now I have that item clone. Now I can safely remove this item from the HTML DOM.
Hmm.
Instead of all this button, what I will do is like I will just for each this thing data. Now I can move whole button code and paste it over here. I will still use this because what I'm going to do over here is now I'm going to clone the clone item. So like this already defined, so let me underscore it. So like I have an item, I clone it, I remove it from the DOM, so now it's on the memory, and now I'm basically looping all the API data, which is hello world, foo, and bar, and then I'm again cloning each item to basically pass for to add slides. So like let me also fix this one, and instead of now dynamically generated name, I will pass this data over here. And as we see, like it just saved, and you can see even on the blink everything is generated for you. So like if I go to third one, hello world, the foo and bar.
Okay, that's really interesting. So what we're after doing there is we're the item that we have been cloning and putting into the slider. We cloned it, put it into memory on the browser in the DOM, and then we removed it. And that's what that initial. Can you just refresh the page there, just on your local host, just to see what?
Yeah, let me also close so like we can see.
That's super quick.
So yeah,
Did
so the ideal way is like you should have some kind of loader or no content over flash, like
Yeah, yeah,
and
but
then like you
it's still
show.
quite quick. Like when you did it first initially, there was a nice flick, but that one
Yeah,
it's looking quite quick. So then once that's cloned and removed, you're looping through the data that's coming from this random API that you've just hard coded in there, and then each of the cloned items is repeating with the data being filled into the
yeah,
the heading section there.
yeah. So ideally like what we are doing is like we are preparing all the data over here and then we are adding. We are not like adding the fast and then like we do the data
Okay, excuse me.
otherwise.
So you're prepping the data first, and then okay, cool. So then the next thing is const API data. Can that pull from our Webflow CMS?
Yeah, like it's a basically third one, like you use a Zeno one and do something like
Okay,
that.
so this is particularly for third party. Um,
third party approach.
so how would we do a native CMS?
CMS one. Yeah. So let me also let's quickly create that thing for us. CMS. I already have a blog post. Let's create 20 of them.
20. We're going to have 20 CMS items in our slider.
Yeah, I wish they provide more so like we can test more
Yeah, no,
data.
this
But
is perfect. This is perfect.
yeah. So now let's create collection list. Link it with our CMS blog. On a fancy way, we will use built-in templates. Uh, let's this one. So like we know. Let's link with this and main image, the title with name, post summary, and we don't want that button. And yeah, let's add an attribute to it. CMS published. Great. Now for CMS, we dedicated to have a CMS list which loads all the CMS item for the pagination. So let's quickly enable pagination for R ones. So paginate items and like we will have, let's pick two items per thing. So we now can see the two publish, and yeah, like just like that package we
Mhm.
can install this one too. And yeah, doing initialize is again very similar to this one, but let's quickly build things from scratch. So now we can see our items are loaded over here. What I can do is, let's not do anything. Const CMS equals to new CMS list. And now this one is a different one. It's again is a CSS one, thing. So like I can
Mhm.
pass it the valid CSS selector. Now another thing is like you are good to go with it, but you can pass also config. What it does is like initially you just have two items over here, but now you want like, hey, auto load all the items true. Number of items per page, I want 10 let's quick it let's pull all the items or something like on the one page. But yeah, you can specify, let's say 5 items per page. uh, we can also like remove the native pagination event. Yes, I don't want the, I will build my one own. And then like if you're using interactions with the CMS, there's an options that like dynamic editing, you have to refresh the Webflow interactions. So in case you are using interaction with the CMS items, like on scroll it's doing some fade animation, then you should add this as a true. uh, but yeah, like as soon as 1 second. Let's CMS Save it, and here we can see all the pages are
Hmm.
basically getting
Yep.
fetched. And here like we get five instead of two, now we are having a
Yeah, yeah,
five.
yep. So you had pagination natively down as 2, and you've manipulated that here from using xAtom to 5.
Yeah, and then like I can again just using a button, I can uh, go to next page index, and then basically it goes to, so like if you have your custom pagination, then you can basically do it. But what we want to do is we want to get all the items and put it on the over here. So like what we can do is cms get all items. Let's loop it the items, and then like we get the item over here. And what I can do is like slider dot add slide, and you just pass the item over here. Now the good thing is to wait. So on all collection item ready, you want to basically make your steps on the, so like this is basically a manual way to wait.
So that we don't have like one just hanging out at the bottom or something.
Yeah. So when every page basically xatom fetch all the pages and compile the list for you. When it's done, it's going to call these functions for you, and then like you can safely add your code. So like you making sure every items are fetched, and then you can basically doing some things on it. So if you want to show,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
so yeah, like initially two slides, and then like we can also see another 21. So let's slide dot remove slides. So I don't want zero. And so if first slide is removed, the next slide is also a zero.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Makes
So
sense.
I'm just removing both of this one, and now we have the 21. But yeah, you can like get all the slides, and then you can also remove individually. uh, but yes, this is the one. And let's see now why it doesn't have, did I forgot to. And
Nice.
now everything is done, I can just remove the cms from the list,
Nice.
and then everything is basically on the slide. And again, like you can do whatever like you want to remove certain slide from it, you can do that stuff.
Yeah, so that also means, you could put like a static component in between, maybe in slide 2 you could put in an ad or something instead of it
Yeah.
being um awesome. That is
So
epic. It's like it is. I have to say, like, it's a lot more complicated than than using client first attributes. It's a
it's
lot less.
basically,
It's a lot less complicated than writing vanilla JavaScript yourself. It's kind of this. I wouldn't say it's in between. It's definitely closer to the vanilla JavaScript kind of style because, like, we are working with TypeScript, so there's a much more technical understanding there. But it's the possibilities that we have now that you're able to do this. Um,
yes,
yeah,
exactly.
it's great.
So what I can now do is, I know this is the item I will clone. I have cloned item over here. So, and for each item, we also know it has this anchor tag attached to it, which is the button primary. right? Now what you can do is, since now you are basically looping through it, you can basically do it like, hey, I want to get the button from this clone element, get component as child, and I will just use the responsive. Yep. And then what I can do is like, when this button is basically clicking, I want to do different stuff. So like, what I will do, another one is, let's confirm this is then h1. Yes, h1, h1, and I want to alert a message which is saying that h1 get text, and now I'll pass this item, clone item over here. And it's a good idea to prevent default, otherwise it's going to navigate to that page. So now I click it, and it's saying going to read that heading of that particular thing. If I go to seventh one, how to improve web, so it's going to process that one. So like,
Wow. Yeah,
for individual item, you have different controls, and you can do perform different actions on it.
that's really powerful. Wow, that is we've gone through a lot there. Before we were chatting, we were like, oh, well, we get 20, 30 minutes out of this. But this is super powerful. So I suppose just to kind of wrap things up, where we're at with this framework is that we looked at how we could install it. We looked at the very basic initial functionality, like being able to change text dynamically. And then we looked at creating sliders and using static content on the page to pull into our sliders. We
Yep.
looked at how to control sliders through a unique button and how to we also looked at how to be able to piggyback on the already built-in JavaScript and that is in
Different
Webflow
stuff.
that
Yep.
it, that is native to the Webflow elements, particularly the slider. And then we looked at how to pull CMS data from Webflow. Also looked at dynamic data from a third-party hard-coded in distance database
Yes.
and pull that all into a slider. That is
Correct.
a lot. We did a lot in the last hour and 13 minutes.
Yeah.
Virat, I have to say, this is an amazing project. Well done. Thanks very much for showing me and going through all of this. Where can people find you? How can they reach out to you? Or, yeah, where can people find you
Yeah.
online?
You guys can basically follow me on the Twitter. Uh, it's xAtom team. So anyway, like on the documentation, I also have to find.
Yep.
You can follow me over here, and like on the bio you can find all the details regarding all the projects that I have created, or all the tools that I have created for it. Yeah, so like there are a bunch of stuffs that we haven't covered, but you can dive into the documentation and read more about it. So like there are authentication stuff, route stuff,
Yeah,
list
the
form.
authentication stuff, I would have liked to have got into that, but we're
Yes.
yeah, we'll be here all day. But
Yeah.
it's that's really
We
powerful.
can show the authentication on action. Like I have a demo, like there people can clone that site and
Hmm.
get that repo. Should I show,
Sure.
or so it's superbase-demo.webflow.io, and basically you can clone this GitHub repo and the Webflow project. But here is the quick thing: you can go to the create account. So like I'm already over there. So let so if I go to dashboard, it won't allow me to dashboard. So like that's the protected route that is an action with the authentication. Then I can go to the create account and basically create all the account. This is basically connected to the Supabase auth.
Mhm.
And so let me just quickly log in. So it
Nice.
authenticated and it's all does all the stuff. Um, it adds the stuff to the database and all the stuff. So all this thing that we have seen for the list, it's basically covered over here. But yeah, now if I am logged in and if I go to the create account or login, it going to redirect me to the
Hmm.
dashboard page.
Great.
So that's
This is a whole
that's
other
all.
project. This is a whole other stream.
Yeah.
Awesome. Wow. But it just shows the possibilities. We went through some very um like rudimentary, not rudimentary, just entry level stuff. Whereas this is going way deeper. It's using um Superbase as a backend, also as an authentication, Webflow as a front end, and then xAtom as the framework to make it all work,
Yes.
which is awesome. Awesome. Virat, thank you very much. My
Thank you
brain
so
is
much.
melted. Thanks very much for building this. Thanks very much for showing me. And yeah, we'll talk to you again. So if people
Sure
want
thing.
to find Virat, check him out on Twitter. Please go check out his awesome project xAtom. And yeah, we'll talk to you again. Right, Virat. We'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.
Yep.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Bye bye.